Hello and welcome. For this segment of John Redmann Power of Attorney and De Todo Un Poco's Election Special 2017, our guest is Judge Tiffany Chase, candidate for judge on the Court of Appeal for Louisiana's Fourth Circuit Court. Judge Chase is joining us by telephone. Judge Chase, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Redmann.
Okay, so just to remind everybody, the election is right around the corner. It takes place on March 25th. Please get out there and vote. Every vote counts, especially on an off election such as this. There's very few items, maybe only 2 items on the ballot, so every vote really counts. You need to get out there and vote. With that being said, let's get right to the questions. This particular election is for judge for the Court of Appeals. That is the appellate court for the Fourth Circuit. Judge Chase, you're a judge right now on the district court level. That is the trial court level, but you want a promotion, as you might call it, to the Court of Appeals. Why don't you tell our viewers, our listeners, what happens in the Court of Appeal and what geographic area is covered by this court?
Well, first and foremost, the Court of Appeal, there are 5 courts of appeal in the state of Louisiana. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal covers Orleans, Plaquemines, and St. Bernard Parish. A lot of people don't really understand what the appellate courts do, mainly because we're so used to just seeing the trial courts where there are juries and there's day-to-day activities. The appellate court is very different. It is a court of review where they check the papers of the lower courts. And if you are aggrieved or don't agree with the decision of a judge on the trial court, on the court that I'm at right now, then you go to the Court of Appeal and you ask those judges to look at the decisions of the lower court.
Okay, so on the Court of Appeal, is it, well, I know the answer, but I want you to explain it. How many judges look at what happened on the trial court level?
Well, it depends. It's usually a panel of 3 judges, or sometimes it can be 5 judges, or it could be what they call the court en banc, or all of the judges. And so you have to work with the other judges in order to reach a decision versus when you are a trial court judge, as I am now, where you're making the decision by yourself.
Okay. Now, the Fourth Circuit for the Court of Appeal covers what parishes?
Orleans, Plaquemines, and St. Bernard.
Okay. Now, the people who get to vote in this election, this is a special election. Do people from all parishes get to vote? Those 3 parishes get to vote, or is it just Orleans?
No, it's just Orleans. There are different seats in the Court of Appeal, but this particular seat that I'm running for on March the 25th, only the residents of Orleans Parish can vote for this seat. Okay. And I'm not sure we covered this already. The cases that get appealed to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, those come from all the district courts within Plaquemines, St. Bernard, and Orleans? Correct. And the cases come from criminal and civil court here in Orleans. They come from juvenile court here in Orleans. They come from the family courts. And so the Court of Appeal hears everything.
Okay. So how would you describe your particular role as one of the judges if you are elected to that post on the Court of Appeals? How would you view or explain your role in the Court of Appeal?
Well, on the Court of Appeal, you have to work with the other judges. As I stated before, that you're by yourself and you make a decision on your own when you're on the district court. But you have to be able to convince the other judges, either by your writing, by your research, to agree with the decision that you're making, or the other judges have to convince you of their decisions. And so that process is very different from the process where we are now. You still give reasons for judgment why you make your decisions, but everything in the Court of Appeal is written. briefs are filed, arguments are made by lawyers, but essentially it is just researching and writing, and that's how those decisions are rendered or made by those judges.
Okay. So I want to continue this discussion, but we need to pause for a short break. So we'll be right back, everyone, after a short pause. Stay with us. Okay, right now is the pause, so we'll assume we've got a break and quiet for a second. All right, welcome back. We are talking with Judge Tiffany Chase from the trial court in Orleans Parish, candidate for Louisiana's Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Judge Chase, I want to continue our discussion about your candidacy for the Court of Appeals. I'd like to ask you a little bit about what you believe has prepared you for or made you equipped to sit on the Court of Appeals. Tell our listeners, our viewers, a little bit about your background, education, and experience that you believe makes you prepared for this role and perhaps even the better qualified candidate for this role.
Well, I graduated from Loyola's Law School, and upon graduation, my first job was at the Louisiana Supreme Court, where I served for 3 years as a staff attorney and law clerk. And so the Supreme Court is our state's highest court. There I did researching and writing of opinions and drafting of opinions. I then went to work for a firm and then went back to the Louisiana Supreme Court and went back to work for another firm. I like to say that I've actually clerked at the Louisiana Supreme Court for 7 years, 3 separate times. And I believe that experience uniquely prepared me to serve as a Court of Appeal judge, because the experience that I received as a staff attorney and law clerk at the Louisiana Supreme Court, doing exactly what the Court of Appeal judges do. I have also been a trial court judge now for almost 10 years, so I've been in the trenches handling cases. I've tried over 20 jury trials over the last 5 years as I've been on the civil bench, but I've also served as a domestic and family court judge for 5 years, where I handled domestic violence cases and the like. I have experience on both the civil and the criminal side, which are the types of cases that are actually heard in the Court of Appeal. And I believe that my researching and my writing skills prepared me for an ascension to the Fourth Circuit.
Okay. So in your time on the Supreme Court, when you were doing research and writing, you were essentially doing very similar work that is done on the Court of Appeals, except you were at the highest level of the appellate court level. Is that accurate?
That's exactly accurate. That is correct.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about access to justice for everyone, minorities in general and Hispanics more particularly. From your experience at both at the Supreme Court, working almost 10 years at the trial court level, and as an attorney working outside of the courts, working at law firms, can you give any insights or perspective on issues or challenges that you witnessed or have witnessed from inside the courthouse as a judge or as a law clerk to judges or justices, and what you think, and as an attorney practicing, and what you think you may be able to do if given the position of judge in the Court of Appeals?
Well, My platform has always been access to justice. When I was in the law clinic at Loyola University, I was actually a part of the immigration clinic, and it was important to me then, as it is important to me now, that all people have access to justice. There are a lot of language barriers that people face, in addition to not really understanding the process. I mean, I don't think that it's an issue for everyone. The process can sometimes be very difficult. That's why good attorneys like you are available to people to help them to navigate the system. The system is, especially the civil system, is very costly and very difficult and can be very scary. And as a judge, I've seen people to come into my court. We have to provide interpreters for all people, and it's scary enough to come to court to discuss your issues related to your child support or child custody. But then you add that language barrier, so that makes it even more scarier for people. And so as a judge, I think that it's my role to help people to understand that process. I'm very proud to say that I started Louisiana's first self-help desk, and that is at Civil District Court. We have helped over 10,000 people in the community since that desk was opened in 2010. That desk provides free forms for people and free legal advice on a host of civil issues, because not knowing how to work within that system really amounts to a denial of someone's ability to have access to the system. And so access to justice for all is important, and I can say that I have worked very diligently with the Louisiana State Bar and the Louisiana Civil Justice Center to help to bridge all those gaps that exist.
Okay. On that note, it's time for another short break. So everyone, please stay with us. We'll be back after this short pause. Welcome back. Judge Chase, following up on the access to justice topic we were just discussing, what would you say in administering justice from the trial court, and if elected on the Court of Appeals, what would you say are some of the attributes or some of the most daunting challenges for a judge, if you could give a quality or an example of the attributes or qualities that you believe are the most important for a judge at the trial court and on the Court of Appeals?
I believe that you, as a judge, you must follow the law, but I also believe that you have to have empathy. The law can be very strict at times, and it is the difference between the trial court and the appellate court is the ability to interpret the law. You're able to interpret the law a little bit better at the appellate court versus at the trial court, where you make decisions up or down, essentially. But empathy is very, very important on the trial court level, because you have the ability to look into someone's eyes, to look at someone's body language, and make those factual findings based upon what you see, what you hear, and what you feel. And I think that that is really the difference, because when you're in the appellate court, it is a cold record. The judges on the appellate court don't have the benefit, which is why the standard of review, it's the way that the appellate court looks at a case, is different, because the trial court is in the best possible position to watch that person, to see how that person reacts to an answer, to see their believability. So it's different. A cold record, all you're doing is on the appellate court is reading words on a page. You're looking at the decisions that were made by the trial court. So I think that that's the distinguishing factor between a trial court and an appellate court.
Okay. Here's a question I like to ask all candidates on the show, and that is, can you describe a situation which you took in which you took a controversial or an unconventional position as a judge, and how you handled the reaction that you received when you took that controversial position?
I would say that the most difficult situations have been in family court. When I served on family court, the law is what the law is. However, what I like to tell families when they came in is that you have to remember that everything that you say is on the record. And everyone's going to come into court and say bad things about the other side and good things about themselves. And I've had situations where I took off my robe, I went off the record, of course with the permission of the parties, and sat down, not on the bench, but sat down in the courtroom with the parties and their lawyers and tried to work out a plan and course of action for the children that was beneficial for the children, because once words are said on a record, you cannot take that back. And I found that many parents were very, they were taken aback initially by a judge taking off their robe and sitting down and talking to them, because I thought that gave me the ability to make a better decision for the family, as opposed to just listening to the witnesses. Now, sometimes it didn't work because I have to make a decision sometimes because people may not be able to work things out. But situations that pertain to children and lives, I think that you have to think outside the box and do what's right. And sometimes the law does not account for that all the time.
Very good. Now we're just running out of time here. I want to thank you for sharing with us some insights about you. But with the last few moments we have, is there anything you would like to share with our viewers about you, for our viewers to consider when making up their minds for whom they would like to vote for judge for the Court of Appeals in this race, the election on March 25th?
Well, I'd like to say that I am running on my record, my nearly 10 years of experience as a district court judge, the innovative programs that I have started at Civil District Court to ensure access to justice for all people, the experience that I have received as a judicial law clerk and staff attorney at the Louisiana Supreme Court, our state's highest court. That is, there I did research, I did writing. I like to say that I have 17 years of judicial experience that I bring to this election and to this seat. And I am asking for your vote on March the 25th. I have provided access to justice for all people, regardless of finances, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, because that is who I am and that is what I have done. And ask that you look at my record and consider voting for me on March the 25th.
What is your candidate number on the ballot for those people who are interested?
5 or 5.
Very good. You speak in Spanish. Very good.
My first election was on Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, very good. Well, on el 25 de marzo, the 25th of March.
Gracias.
Okay. And, well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have. Judge Tiffany Chase, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know you're extremely busy in the run-up to the trial. I mean, to the election day. Thank you for being with us. That's all the time we have. It's our great pleasure. I'm John Redmann. This is the De Todo Un Poco and John Redmann Power of Attorney Election Special. That's all the time we have for now. Thank you very much.